Ultron dropped, and I'm not saying I called him being a strategist, but... Nah, I'm playing, it was super fucking obvious. However, I did call his ultimate being a bunch of bots, so give me a little bit of credit. And while everyone's still on the high of a new character, there is views to get, clout to earn, and money to be made. So we're doing a part 6 of Heroes We Want in Marvel Rivals. So far, I've done Thanos, Deadpool, Ant-Man, Nightcrawler, Ghost Rider, Carnage, Silver Surfer, Ultron, Sandman, Domino, Juggernaut, Mysterio, Jean Grey, Quicksilver, Silver Samurai, Angel, Kitty Pryde, Green Goblin, Shang-Chi, War Machine, Professor X, Black Bolt, Lady Death, Dracula, Miles Morales, Gambit, Cyclops, Rogue, Sentry, Wasp, Kraven, Doom, and Blade. I also did a DC Rivals video with Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, John Constantine, and Sinestro. If you're watching this, I'm assuming you've already seen one of the previous videos, but just in case, please keep in mind that I try not to do just all of the popular choices. I also try to do some more niche picks who would change the meta in interesting ways. That being said, I am a man of the people and the money, so fine, I'll do fucking Drax. And yes, his passive is that when he stands still, he's invisible. Now like and subscribe before I change my mind. Seriously though, I want Drax to be a tankier duelist with a decent CC capability and a pretty good health pool. To balance this, he'd have to do relatively low damage compared to a lot of the other duelists, so he's not somebody you'd carry games with, more like a counter pick. So, the real passive is damage reduction whenever he's attacking. His primary is obviously slashes with the daggers. His first ability is a throw, where he throws a dagger at an enemy. It does 50 damage on hit. He can throw a second dagger, and if it hits the same person, it does 75 damage. This also gives Drax the ability to pounce at any enemy with a dagger in them. He pulls out the daggers for 50 each, meaning if he hits both daggers on the same target, then pounces towards them, it will kill most squishies. However, it's not the fastest projectile in the world, so hitting both daggers isn't as easy as it sounds. Added bonus is that when his dagger is stuck in somebody, it counts as an attack, so his passive is active the whole time. As a secondary, he sticks both daggers into an enemy for small damage over time, but he can carry them around in a bear hug for a small duration. Again, this also activates his passive, and means he can effectively throw a dagger at someone, leap towards them, bear hug, and carry them back to his team. However, he can be CC'd to break the hold. Think of it like POV, you're the first man in the 100 vs 1 gorilla fight. And for the ultimate, it's time to go wild. He can now leap at anybody within range with a tiny cooldown, regardless if there's a dagger in them. His slash is away faster, and his bear hug turns into a back crunch attack that does a large portion of damage and leaves the enemy rooted for a second afterwards. The idea of Drax just jumping from enemy to enemy, laughing the whole time, and just cracking backs makes me happy. The team-ups write themselves. I think Mantis has to help him regulate his emotions so that he gets added damage resistance on his passive, maybe from 20% to 25%. Or for Groot, he can put his little seed bomb thing on Drax's dagger so that when he throws it, it has the same sort of cluster bomb effect. Hopefully you ravenous Batista fans are now slightly satiated and I can get back to the characters I like, with Toad. Honestly, I'm surprised it took me this long to do Toad, because I fucking love frogs and toads. They're so weird, like what the fuck is this thing? Anyway, I toyed with the idea of making him a strategist because he does have various pheromone based abilities and great CC, plus the Gooners would have a fucking field day licking Emma Frost to heal her, but too much of his kit would be offensive, so I think very similar to Drax, we have him as a mobile duelist with a lower damage but good CC. The movement is the most fun part. He can use his jumping power similar to the Hulk's super jump, but a lot quicker. Plus, he can also stick to surfaces and crawl along them like the Spider Clan. The passive is that when he hits you, a small bar fills up. When it's full, you become stunned for a moment by his pheromones. For his primary, I think just whipping with his tongue at decent range, kinda like Venom's tendrils, suits just fine. The first ability is a lot like Mr. Fantastic's, where he wraps you up in his tongue, slowing your movement and damaging you over time, along with filling up the ferro bar. The second ability is a dropkick that launches you very far and does high damage. So, the ideal combo is to set up somewhere like a wall, jump into the backline, trap someone with your tongue, dropkick them away from their team, and use your superior movement to go finish them off before their team can get to them. Side note, I think his cosmetic potential goes fucking stupid. Anyway, for the ultimate, He does have acidic saliva, so maybe if he shoots that onto the floor, causing damage over time, and his pheromone bar to fill up, means he can shut down escape routes or possibly stun loads of people at once. Lastly, team-ups. Yeah, I got nothing. At least nothing good. It makes sense to give him one with Magneto, but I don't really know what it would be. He did also have a thing for Scarlet Witch, so maybe they can combo their ults somehow. Like his pheromone bar feels quicker, so she can catch the enemy slacking if he can stun them with his acidic puddle. Toad's a unique character, so his powers don't exactly align with many of the cast. Let me know if you have any suggestions. Okay, that's both our duel lists already done, and you've probably figured out by now I tried to keep it 2-2-2. Let's hit a Vanguard next with another brother, Sabretooth. I've seen people say that Nemesis characters should usually be built to counter their rival, but that doesn't seem to be true with most of the cast so far. Venom is not in the slightest a counter to Spider-Man, and Hela does not really counter Thor. Plus, I feel my Silver Samurai build was a lot better suited to countering Wolverine, so I would rather make Sabretooth his own man. In terms of playstyle, I'm going to be taking very heavy inspiration from Morerer from League. Sabretooth has always been a brutal hunter, so giving him increased movement and attack speed towards enemies who are below half health, along with healing upon killing, will keep him aggressive and fast. For his movement, he would have a sprint, but only when his passive is active. The primary is standard slashes. The first ability is a self-sustain that allows him to heal 100% of the damage he does for a short period of time and increases his attack speed. He will be a dive tank, so he won't often be getting healing from his own team, so I don't think this is that broken. The second ability is a dash, that he can charge up for more distance, again like Hulk's jump, but with no verticality, and it does damage as it passes through people. Since it needs to be charged up, he can't just spam it back and forth like Black Panther, so it's more of a finishing tool or an escape option. Lastly, on the ultimate, I think we give him a neck chomping kill shot. Too many characters I've built have some kind of berserk mode, so even though it would fit him, I want to add more kill potential for him by making it one-shot any enemy below 30% health, so it's better for taking out tanks than squishies. To balance this, it's got a big startup animation, so it's pretty easy to block, dodge, or CC him out of it. Every single video I've done in this series so far has had at least one Wolverine team up. So it's time for a change. If Magneto uses his bubble and Sabretooth when he goes in for his kill shot, it makes it a lot harder to stop it, so maybe when he gives his bubble to Sabretooth, it lasts for longer than most characters, letting him dive for a lot longer before having to retreat. Sticking on the theme with muscular furry bait, a support who would be a lot like Sabretooth but more defensive is Beast. I was considering putting him in Vanguard, and he can really be either, but I think having a spare strategist who can tank, rather than a spare Vanguard who can heal, would be more useful. His powers are very similar to Sabretooth, with increased senses, animal instincts, claws, etc., but their abilities and mindsets are completely different. As such, he'd have the same passive of increased movement speed towards low health characters, but for allies instead of enemies, so he can get back to the fight quicker, or help allies who are out of position. We will need to take a lot of liberties with his character, because although he is canonically one of the smartest people in Marvel, he rarely uses technology in combat. For example, he can build a time machine and a cell capable of containing the Juggernaut, but I don't know how often he uses gadgets in the heat of battle. Regardless, for the sake of the game, he will be in our version. So his primary would utilize a healing beam, like a cross between Winston and Mercy. The secondary would likely be energy projectiles that create a small explosion when they land, with small damage over a large area. For his first ability, I think he can use the containment cell technology to either create a barrier or imprison somebody for a while. If it's a barrier, I think it should be invulnerable and see-through, but nobody can walk through it. So it's more like a defensive version of Groot's walls, and it also has a pretty big cooldown, so you can't just keep moving it. If we go with the imprisoning option, same thing. It just locks a player down with 4 barriers. They're invulnerable but can't move. Good for shutting down a flyer temporarily, or a Bucky who keeps ulting, or a diver who's out of position, so you can all jump on them when the barriers fall. Let me know what you think is best, as I don't think we should do both, but I mean maybe. Second ability would be an escape option where he leaps backwards. He can do this alone, or he can grab an ally and take them with him. It gives him both armor upon landing, so his passive allows him to sprint towards the ally with low health, and this ability lets you rescue them. Lastly, the ultimate. Look, I'm gonna level with you. This is not a good idea. They should not add this to the game. But it's funny. He puts a time travel device on an ally, and upon activation, it rewinds them by 20 seconds. This can bring them back to life, change their position, or reset their abilities. Which means if you have a Bucky who's ulting, you can wait till his ultimate is done, reset him, and have him ult again. Like I said, this is not a good idea, but it will allow for some wacky shit. Enemy Luna ulting? Fuck it. Take 2 maximum pulses. Cloak and Dagger ultimate just kept everyone alive for 2 solid fucking minutes? Fuck it, we chain smoking. Your stupid fucking dive teammate keeps demanding heals? Fuck it, now he can be useless twice as often. You get the idea. And for team ups, I think Storm needs some more love. Since they're 2 of the more responsible teachers at the academy, I'd love to see voice lines between those 2 and Logan. In terms of the ability, I'm thinking Beast builds some kind of weather machine that increases the range of Storm's buffs. So that's 2 DPS, a tank, and a support. And with the introduction of Ultron, there's never been a better time to introduce little bro, Vision. For the passive, I think that instead of giving him ammo in the regular sense, we give him solar power. Whenever he takes any kind of damage or deals any kind of damage, it fills his solar bar. The primary would be melee strikes, and the secondary would be a beam that uses said solar bar. His movement will be medium speed flight. Not as fast as Iron Man, but not as slow as Storm. His first ability is that he can consume a full solar bar to become extremely dense. If he's in the air, this drops him to the ground, doing hefty damage if he lands directly on top of someone, or low damage if it's close to them. Similar to Emma, this also means he takes less damage and does high melee damage during dense mode. Or he can consume a full solar bar to do the opposite and become intangible, making him immune to damage, immune to CC, able to move through most terrain, and fly a lot faster. Essentially, it's just an escape option. The second ability would be something related to his computer brain. Maybe he can scan an enemy and it reveals certain information depending on who it is, like if it's Loki, he can tell which one's real, if it's Rocket, he can tell where his healing beacon is, if it's Invisible Woman, he can see through her invisibility, etc. This is a tricky one because some characters, I don't know what information it would reveal, maybe just cooldowns. I just want something that leans into his love of chess and strategy, you know what I mean? And for the ultimate, I think if you broke down some of his nanites, giving them to each ally within range, making them receive a lot of bonus health, similar to Rocket Raccoon's ultimate, but it also activates Vision's passive, meaning his solar bar still goes up if your allies take damage. One of the weaker ultimates in the game, but we can always add more armor to buff it if it's necessary. Team up is pretty obvious. I say we give Doctor Strange and Scarlet's team up to them instead. If Wanda uses a mix of solar energy and magic to do more damage, while Vision also gets a bit of magic on his solar beam. Both of them get a lot more damage output. We've reached our last character for the day, and it's one I'm surprised I haven't received more requests for. Mr. Negative. I've stayed away from Mr. Negative for a while because Cloak and Dagger already kind of have the whole yin-yang vibe going on, but fuck him, Mr. Negative's cooler. So, his passive is that all his abilities heal allies and damage enemies. That sounds super obvious, but let me explain. For movement, I think he should just have a standard double jump like Moon Knight. His primary is sword slashes that shoot arcs of dark/light energy. If it hits an ally, it heals. If it hits an enemy, it damages. The first ability would be negative mode. He can cast this on allies, himself, or enemies via touch. If done to himself or an ally, it means all damage taken is converted into healing. If done to an enemy, all healing taken is converted into damage. It doesn't last long, but it's great for dive characters or for scaring away dive characters who come for you. The second ability is that he uses his katana to tear a dark rift through reality that acts as a shield. He can pocket any damage that rift takes and store it as bonus health for allies or a big burst of damage to enemies, a maximum of 200. The ultimate is simply a larger version of his first ability. He creates a void of negative energy, similar to Invisible Woman's ultimate. However, for balancing purposes, I think we can only do one at a time. Either he places down a black void, meaning enemies who are healed within take damage, or he places down a white void, meaning allies get healed when they take damage. If he got to do both at the same time, it would be insanely broken. Imagine the Luna pulls off a clutch save and you just steal her ultimate, making her effectively wipe out her entire team and heal yours just to rub salt in the wound. Funny, but utterly busted. The team up writes itself. If Martin Lee gives his negative mode to Venom, it lasts a lot longer than most other characters. Simple, effective, and suits Venom's role as a dive tank. Today's list was a lot more mainstream than usual, and I'm having a tough time keeping these consistent, so do me a favor, leave me some suggestions down below, but try to focus more on the supports. I've got a long list of duelists and vanguards, so I'm not running out of them anytime soon, but strategists, you don't know how close I've come to adding fucking Madam Web out of desperation. And one last question before I go, of all of the builds I've made so far, which one is your favorite? I want to know what kind of stuff you guys like to see if I can replicate that magic with future builds. So far, for me personally, I'm going to go with the CC Monster Sandman, the anti-triple support strategist Lady Death, and the coolest hero in Marvel by a mile, Ghost Rider. Thanks for watching as always, till next time.